Hi, welcome to this lecture. In this lesson, we will look at logistic regression, the theory behind it, practical implementation in Python language, and the evaluation of its results. First, let's understand the theory behind logistic regression. Why we require this particular regression algorithm. So, logistic regression is one of the simplest classification algorithm. Classification can be of two different types. One, it can be two-class classification, meaning there will be only two different classes. So you would have seen what is classification in the introduction. So there are going to be different categories of variables, and identifying what is our category is called as classification. That's the shortest explanation I can give. So the other format can be multi-class classification, right? So in these two types, logistic regression belongs to type 2 class classification. So just assume we are going to have some data points where there are certain values marked by X and certain values marked by circles. If I am able to separate these two different sets of data by using a linear line equation, then this becomes our logistic regression model. So what is actually required is we need two different sets of data such that they are linearly separable, meaning with using a single straight line we should be able to separate those data. If our data abides by this rule, then we can go for logistic regression to classify the data. Okay, this is the basic criteria what we will see. And the implementation behind this is not too complicated because it is same as the regression model that we saw. So in regression, if you would remember, the line equation was this thing: y equals to f of x b0 x0 plus b1 x1 plus, and it goes on till bn xn, right? But how this would differ or convert into a decision boundary such that the values upper to the boundary become 1, the values below this boundary become class 0. So that is why we are going to call this as decision boundary. So we are going to convert this particular format of equation into a different value. We are going to transform this equation into 1 divided by 1 plus e raised to power the line equation of what we have. Suppose I am going to consider only two variables, then I will restrict it to x0 and x1 alone. Now this format of function 1 divided by 1 plus e raised to power is called as sigmoid function. Okay, the property of sigmoid function is such that for any given value of x, so this is the x-axis and this is going to be our y-axis. For any given value of x, my output y is going to be within this limit. So this limit is going to be 0 to 1. So ultimately for any given value of x, my output y is going to be a probabilistic value. Why I am considering this as a probabilistic value is the range is in between 0 and 1. So we can consider this as a probabilistic value. And once I say this becomes a probabilistic value, any value less than f of x less than 0.5, I can take the output as 0, meaning class 0. For f of x, any value greater than 0.5, I can consider it as class 1. So these are the two different classes that we are going to take out of this equation. Okay, but now, okay, so this should be clear, the sigmoid function property. But before identifying this, the same problem comes into picture as in regression. Identifying these parameters, the unknown parameters of b0 and b1. So we should be now knowing the answer how these parameters are identified. So this is going to be the same principle as the optimization problem that we saw in regression as well. So there will be a gradient descent algorithm which is going to minimize our cost function. So there is the gradient descent function is going to minimize the cost function and calculate our parameters, right? So this is the internal working of the algorithm. This is going to be actually happening inside. So no need to worry or put too much of effort into it at this point. Once you become clear with application, how the data is processed, how it is applied, then you can go and have a look at the gradient descent algorithm, so that we will be more strong in fundamentals, and the working knowledge of algorithm is always good to have. Okay, so now let's move on to our implementation in Python program. Okay, so in this exercise we will see whether an insurance claim is provided to the client or not. So this is going to be two class classification problem, where an insurance claim is the data we have, the client details we have, and then whether a client will be provided with the insurance claim or not. So these are going to be the two different classes that we are going to be interested in predicting. So to do that, let me import the required libraries. These are the same libraries what we use for regression. There is no difference in it. And the data is contained in this file called claimants.csv. First, let us understand what are the data present in this CSV file. Once I have imported the file, I can print the first few lines by claimants.head method. So this prints the first few rows and all the columns. This contains totally 7 columns, but the first one, case number, is not important. It is something like serial number. What we will be interested in predicting is the attorney column. This is going to tell us whether a claim is provided to the client or the claimant. The claim is provided to the client or not is represented by 1 and 0. And the other columns are going to be the features of the clients that is present in this data set. The first is the claimant sex, that is gender. Claimant insured or not, this is a binary value. Seat belt, this is again a binary value. Claimant age, claimant loss. So these two are, we are going to treat these two columns as continuous values. Okay. So the most important features, the last 5 columns is what we will be making use of as inputs to our model, and attorney will be the output of the model, right? So in this we are going to drop the case number since it is not useful, and axis 1 represents column information. So we are calling claimants.drop case number axis equal to 1. So there are two different variants. If we are going to use in place equal to true, then the output will not be printed into the console window. That is the purpose of in place equal to true argument. Otherwise the output, the modified output will again get printed into the console window. So I do not want to observe it, so I am dropping it off using in place equal to true, and then after removing it we are able to see the case number column is no more present. Okay, so that is the purpose. We are also making sure that, and then I am going to check if there are any empty values present in my data set. Okay, so to do that I am calling isNull.sum. So whenever there is a data that is not present in any one of the cell in any column row, that will be read as NA, not applicable information. To read all those NA and sum it up, we can make use of this method. Claimants, that is a data frame name dot isNull.sum. So this gives me this a subset of table which says claimant sex, insured, seat belt, claimant age. So all these 4 columns contain these many missing informations. So our goal is to first follow an approach and fill these missing values. So the approach will be a simple one, where either we will be filling the missing values with mean value or median value or mode value. So mean is average, median is the middle value in a sorted data, mode is the most repeated value. So in all these cases, since we have the first 3 items, sex, insured, seat belt, all these are Boolean values. So it is only either going to be 0 or 1. In this case, either mean or median is not going to be an appropriate choice. So for filling all these 3, we will be going with an approach of mode. If either gender 1, that is if either 1 has repeated most times, then fill it with 1. If 0 has repeated most times, then we will fill it with 0. So that is the approach we are going to take with first 3 columns, and this age column we are going to fill it with the average value. So this is the approach we have explained, and we will see how that is implemented as well. Okay, so in this case, I just want to visualize it and see what the data is present in claimant age versus sex. Like based on sex, what is the age distribution present in my data frame? To achieve that, I'm going to first see the 5-point summary. So this is a 5-point summary, nothing but we are going to calculate 5 different statistical parameters, that is mean, standard deviation, minimum, maximum, first quartile, third quartile, median. See the different statistical parameters we are going to observe for all the values. The same thing can be observed using a simple graph and we can understand it as well. Okay. So to do that, I am making use of, to building the box plot, I am making use of the Seaborn package. So once I import the Seaborn package and from that I build the box plot, this is the graph I get. This graph is a simple graph. So the X column is split based on the number of categories contained in this X column, and then the age is on the Y side. So this, but every single box is called as the box plot for that particular category. So for claimant X with category 0, this is the age distribution. Okay, so this first bottom horizontal line represents minimum value, this is maximum value. Inside the box, the middle value represents median. Then the boundaries of the box, the lower boundary represents first quartile and the upper boundary represents third quartile. So this from this we can infer our maximum amount of data is dispersed between first quartile and third quartile, that is bounded by the rectangular box. The same is what for age category 1 as well. So this is almost similar except the maximum age limit. So this says our age distribution across both the age groups, both the gender groups are similar in nature. So this is just for understanding and inferring what is our data contains. That is going to be the purpose of visualization, mostly for any kind of plot. Then I am calculating claimants.mean. This gives me the mean value for each and every column. So most of the columns mean are going to be not meaningful because there are a lot of Boolean variables like cis, sex, insured, seedbed, all these contains just the Boolean values. So age, that will be appropriate to us, that we will be making use of, and loss also might be appropriate and useful if there is any missing values, right? So these are the outcomes by observing the statistical values. Next, there are lots of commented lines, you can just ignore it. Next, I am going to count the value counts for attorney column. Okay, so this says when I am going to execute this dot value counts, the meaning of value counts is this is going to give me the sum of each and every categorical data present in that particular column. Okay, so here 0 is one category, 1 is another category. So 0 has occurred 685 times and 1 has occurred 655 times. So this gives us the mode value. This can be taken as mode value of 0 and mode value of 1. Okay, so this is a simple approach to calculate mode from given data. So again I am going to check the number of null values. So it is the same as the previous time we calculated, there is no difference in it. Now the approach we are going to backfill CLM sex, CLM insured and seatbelt. These three are going to be calculating the mode value and backfilling with the largest occurring mode value. So we know the mode value is calculated in this way. To either fill 0 or 1, we need to know which category has occurred most number of times, and that from that only we are going to take that index position and fill it in the place of missing locations. Okay, so this is going to return the mode value, and out of this data, whichever category has occurred most number of times, that particular index value we are going to take it and put it inside the missing location. So to perform that particular step, this one single line will be useful to us. So here the data frame dot ILOC, we are going to access the data frame with the help of index location. So there is empty value, meaning all rows colon 0 to 4 columns. Okay, so this contains from 0 to 4 columns. Let's see what is the data present in 0 to 4 columns. To see that, just copy and paste it here. This is going to give us the first 4 columns. Okay, so 4 meaning 4 minus 1, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. Those will be the first 4 columns. Attorney, sex, claimant, seatbelt. So for all these 4 columns, all are going to be binary values. So we can follow the same approach. So claimants.iloc, again for the 0 to 4 dot apply. Dot apply is a command which would apply a specific function transformation to each and every column from this data frame. So every column gets into this apply function. So inside this apply method, I have one another function again. This is called as a lambda function, a special function. Lambda is a special function in Python. You can go through it in clear. So lambda, any lambda function will accept one single argument and process a simple statement after this colon. So again I will repeat, lambda is a special function which will accept one or more arguments. After a colon, we will make use of those arguments to perform a single valid Python statement, executable statement. So in this case, I am going to accept x as one single column from the data frame and process that column in this manner. So x dot fill NA, meaning in this particular column, if there are any NA, fill that NA with using this function. We can even hard code a value here, or I am calling a function here and then getting a return value and filling it in this place. So fill NA of 0 meaning 0 will be filled in this empty locations. Fill NA of 1 meaning 1 will be filled in this empty locations. So here find replace is going to call another function which is present here. So one single column information will come here. That column name dot value counts of 0 greater than column dot value counts of index position 1. If 0 index position value is going to be greater than the first index position, say example, if attorney is going to be the first case, if 0 index position is greater than the first index position, then I will return 0, else I will return 1, because 0 index is containing maximum number of count. So this mode is higher, I will take 0 as the maximum occurring value. If 1 was higher, else if condition would fail and it will enter into else, I will return 1, meaning the mode of boolean value 1 is higher, category 1 will be higher, so that will be the value returned. That value will again come into this inside of fill NA, that value will get filled in all the missing positions. So likewise it will get repeated for the remaining 3 columns, claimant, sex, insured and seatbelt. Right? Once I execute this column, so I need to execute this function that I did not do. After creating that function, let me select this line and execute it. Now all the null values should have got cleared. So if you see here, claimant, sex, insured, seatbelt, all the null values have got cleared, meaning it is backfilled with those approach. Only CLM age column is remaining to be filled. The missing values are yet to be filled. To fill that, what we will do is, so this is going to just give me the names of the columns, dot columns. So these are the columns present, and then this is the approach I am going to fill the age column. So claimants dot CLM age equal to claimants dot CLM age dot fill NA. The same method used as in the previous step, but what we are filling with is claimants dot CLM age dot mean. I am calculating the mean of age column and then filling it in place of all those missing places. So once I execute this, I can check again if there is any null values by executing this command. So now it is clear there are no missing values in any of the column. Once we are clear with this step, we will proceed ahead with building our model. Okay, so we are almost cleaned our data, all the pre-processing is completed. Now next we are going to build our model. So to build the model, the same SM class, that is stats_models.formula.api, that is I am importing it as SM. In SM, this is the function we are going to make use of, or this will be a class. This is the class we are going to make use of it. From this package, we are going to access the class logit, and this is the class for logistic regression algorithm. So inside this logit, I am going to supply my output against all the remaining input methods. This equation is similar to the fashion how we framed for a regression algorithm. The same manner we are going to frame the equation for this also. Output versus the sum of all the other inputs. This data is present in this particular data frame, claimants dot fit. So this is going to result us in a model called as logit model. I am creating it in this variable logit model. To read the summary of this logit model, let me execute this dot summary method, and this is going to give me the different values of this method. So the main things are to be read here are just this p values are going to be the most important cases. Okay, as long as my p value is less than 0.05, then my model is good to go. There are all the parameters are significantly useful. So here all the CLM age, loss, injured, sex, seat belt, almost all are less than 0.05 except seat belt. This is also not so high, it is of 0.1 order. So we are not too much focused on going to correct this seat belt. We'll just proceed ahead and see how to read the results, how to predict and evaluate the metrics. Now the model is built from analyzing this p values. It initially occurs to us the model is having a very good performance. Only when we predict and check the accuracy of the model. So we will see in a minute what is accuracy. Then we will understand how good our prediction, how good our classification model is. So to predict our future values, logit model dot predict claimants. So this is the claimants data frame. With inside this claimants data frame, and the predict method will read only the input columns. So whichever input columns we have supplied to this model, only those input columns will be read from this data frame, and it will produce a new attorney value that we will store it in a list called as y predicted. So y predicted is going to contain our newly predicted attorney value, but it will not be directly 0 or 1. It will be in the form of a probabilistic score between 0 and 1. So this y predicted is going to contain a probabilistic score of between 0 and 1. So as you can observe here, right from values of 0 to 1339. So there are total 1340 rows as in the original data frame. So for all the input data, we have again predicted and come up with a probabilistic score. Now this score we are going to convert it into 0 or 1. Okay, so before converting it to 0 or 1, I am copying this y predicted value to the data frame itself. So I am creating a new column called as predicted underscore probabilities in my original data frame, and I am assigning these values. Okay, so this particular column would have got created in the data frame. This is just for backup. We are not going to make use of it for any reason. Okay, and then I am also creating one more column called attribute value. This is just a name, user defined name, any name we can keep it here. So claimants of attribute value equal to np.zeros 1340. So this will create a numpy array of 1340 zeros, and all these zeros I am going to assign to this newly created column inside this data frame. The reason why I am creating this zeros are, I am going to read these probability values, and if the probability value is greater than 0.5, then I will update this attribute value to 1. Okay, then I will treat the attribute value as the final outcome of the model. So this is going to contain our final classifications, or final predictions will be present in this attribute value only. Okay, so for that I need to correct which rows are going to convert to 1. So this is one single line, claimants.loc. If my y underscore predicted is greater than 0.5. As I mentioned before, we have y predicted where the probabilistic scores are returned and stored. If for that particular index position my y predicted is greater than 0.5, then in this attribute value assign 1. If it is less than 0.05, it is already 0, so nothing would be impacted. Wherever my score is 0.5, that particular index position alone 1 will be assigned to it. After performing this step, if I am going to execute this ADT value, we will be able to observe either just 0 or 1 values present in this ADT value. So this column contains all our predicted classes. Till now we have predicted using our claimants classification model, we have predicted our outputs from the input data frame. Okay, now we will have to compare the expected versus actual values. Okay, expected is the attorney column which is present in the data frame, and actual is the actual values predicted out of model. So this is going to give us the accuracy of the model, how good my created model has predicted the outcomes. So this is going to be the accuracy value. Let's see how we are predicting that, how we are calculating that accuracy value. This is going to be a simple approach. So to do that, we have to build a matrix called as pandas.crosstab. Using this method, we have to build a matrix. So that matrix is created by comparing the expected attorney column and actual predicted values which is present in claimants.att value. Once I create this and then create this table, this is going to be the confusion matrix that gets built. So this how to read this confusion matrix across rows? This is the attorney column 0 and 1, the actual claim rejected and claim that is provided. Across columns are predicted value, claim rejected and claim provided. So whenever there is a predicted claim reject, actually the claim reject is 436. Okay, so this is 0 meeting 0. This is predicted 0, actual 0. So both are correct. Across diagonals, every time the value will be true. Okay, across diagonals the value are correct values. So 0 0 rejected rejected, 0 and 1, meaning this is false negative. 0 is negative, so it is predicting a 0 but the actual is 1. So this is false negative. Okay, we are going to term this as false negative. The first cell is called as true negative. Then the next column 1, this is predicted 1. Predicted 1 but actual is 0. So then this is going to be false positive, predicted as 1 which is false. So this is false positive. Then 1 and 1, this will be true positive. Okay, so this is true positive, true negative, false positive. These are the 4 values that is got by building this confusion matrix. Now to calculate accuracy, it is a simple approach of calculating the sum of diagonal values dividing by the total number of values. To take the sum of diagonal values, confusion matrix dot as matrix, I am converting this into a matrix because this will be of data type data frame. Then dot diagonal, so this will give me the diagonal values. Matrix only contains diagonal values. So when I am going to take all the diagonal values, I am putting it inside the function sum. So both these diagonal values will be added, sum will be calculated, divided by confusion matrix dot as matrix dot sum. So now all the values in the matrix will be taken and the sum will be calculated. So diagonal values divided by total values. This is going to give me the accuracy output. Okay. Once the accuracy is calculated, I can print it and see what is the output. So 0.7014 it goes. 70.14 is the accuracy by building this model. This is our understanding after calculating the accuracy values. But there are other meanings attached to the false negative and false positive. So let's understand it after looking at further examples or refinement. Okay. So this false positive or false negative also gives us certain other clues. So before seeing that, we will understand what is called as ROC curve. Okay, ROC stands for receiver operating characteristics curve. So this ROC curve is going to tell us how our model, how good our model is. Okay, to build that ROC curve, I need a package called as matrix matrix.ROC curve. Then expected versus actual values. Expected is an attorney, y predicted contains our actual values. This is going to return me 2 different values which I am interested. The third value I'm not interested. FPR is false positive rate. TPR is true positive rate. So if you remember from the confusion matrix, there is going to be false positive and true positive. 2 different values we would have got. So 1 and 1 is true positive, 1 and 0 is false positive. These 2 values we are going to get it, but in a different perspective. Like if my positive values keeps increasing, that is if my true positive keeps increasing, then my false positive also keeps increasing or decreasing. Our goal will be to increase only the true positive values and keep the false positives to the minimum. Okay, so once I plot this graph, that would be more clear to you. So let me plot the graph first. So once I plot the graph, this is how it is going to come in place. So along the y-axis it is true positive, along the x-axis it is false positive. True positive are nothing but predicted is true, actual is also true. False positive meaning predicted is true but the actual is negative. That is the meaning for false positive. Okay, so this is not the expected value, only this axis is going to contain our expected value. If my calculated line is only a vertical line across 0 till 1, okay, if my vertical line, the blue line, is going to be a vertical line till 1, then our model is a perfect model where only the expected values are equivalent to predicted values, or the predicted values are equivalent to expected values. Either way we can state it. Okay, but in this case the false positive also keeps increasing, meaning there is error in our model. Our model is producing error. That is what inferred from this graph. As long as there is a curve in the model, there is error also, and the area under this curve is called as AUC. So this area under curve is going to be a decimal value between 0 to 1. If this is a vertical line, then area under curve will be 1. If it is going to contain some decimal value, then our area under curve will be a lesser 1. To calculate the AUC, it is a simple matrix.AUC within this method FPR comma TPR. This is going to give me the AUC value. This is somewhere around 0.760. So 76% of area is under that particular curve, which is from which we can understand it is covering only lesser area. This value has to be maximized. This has to reach value of 1. That is the intention of AUC curve. Okay. So far these are the two different methods we understood the measurement parameters. One is accuracy, another one is ROC and AUC, receiver operating characteristics, the ROC curve, and then the AUC curve, area under curve. These three parameters are going to give us an understanding about how good our logistic regression model is. So the following portion explains us just we are going to make some differences and see if we are able to improve the model. These are only optional things which you can still observe. So a simple approach what we are carrying out here is we are going to split our data into train and test data. Initially we had only one single data set, that is the claimant's data frame. The whole thing we made use of it to train the model as well as test the model. In this case I am going to split my data set, claimant's data set, into 70:30 ratio. 70% of data is going to train data frame, and 30% of data set defined by test size equal to 0.3 is going to go into the test data frame. Okay, so this train test split is again a method present inside sklearn.model selection, which I am importing it here and then splitting this data. Okay, now once I split this, so let me execute the previous values and then observe the values. I am just checking if there is any null values. This null.sum has returned all zeros. There are no missing values. Before that I also included a step. This says claimants.drop of ATT value. ATT is the predicted values from the previous model that we are dropping it again, since we are going to calculate it here once again also. Okay, so here I am going to make use of the sm.logit class and give the inputs against outputs against all the input columns. Data is going to train. So this is the place we are making the change. Here only train data set is given to build the model dot fit. Once my model is built, I am going to use the summary method to see the observe the output. If I am going to observe the p values for all the variables except the intercept does not matter. We no need to observe the p value for intercept, but for the remaining features all are less than 0.05 or almost near to 0.05. Only seat belt is still higher, but we are not going to interested in correcting the seat belt p value, either remove it or make some other test. So just we will have it as of now the same case. Okay, so this train predicted model, we have got the model as train model, we have read the summary, and we are going to predict using this created model. So train model dot predict train dot ILOC all the rows and column number starting from 1 till end of data frame. 1: signifies starting from column position 1 till end of the data frame. So all the other columns, meaning all the other columns, image, loss, insured, sex, seat belt, all these columns will be taken into consideration when we give this one column. Once this is going to give me a dot predict and going to give me a return predicted result. This is going to give us train accuracy, this output when we compare against the expected values. Okay, this is the actual values out of the model, predicted model. This model, when we are going to compare it against the expected value, so this is how we are going to compare train attorney comma train dot train predicted. Okay, train dot train predicted. Train predicted is going to contain a probabilistic score. This probabilistic score, I am going to check if it is greater than 0.5. If so, then I am going to update column train of train predicted equals to 1. I am going to fill this create a column, fill it with zeros, and if the probability score for that particular index is greater than 0.5, then I am going to assign it as 1. Okay, so I am converting this probability score is to zeros and ones. That is, in short, you can understand. Once it is converted into zeros and ones, I am going to compare it against expected and actual. This is again going to give me a confusion matrix, right? So these are warnings we can ignore. Once the confusion matrix is obtained, I can calculate the accuracy value again. Okay, so here it is accuracy train, again sum of diagonal values divided by total sum of values, the same formula what we saw before. So printing accuracy of the train model, that is calculated. So train accuracy is 0.697, 69.7% is the accuracy from the trained model now with just the train data. Okay, now we are going to make use of the trained model and predict the test values. Okay, test values is the 30% of data that we just split it up and stored in a different data frame, that we did not make use of it for training our original data frame. But this is really important because we need to understand how our model is behaving for unknown data. That is the reason we have split certain amount of rows and columns into test data frame and we have kept it separately. Now I am going to make use of my trained model on top of unknown data, predict for unknown data. So this is going to give me test prediction. This is going to contain probabilistic score for the test data. Again, I am going to create a column for test prediction, fill it with zeros. The same column length is the number given here. So this test is going to contain 402 number of columns or row items, sorry, 402 number of row items. So same number of reason, number of zeros, I am creating a numpy array and assigning it to this particular column in test data frame. Okay, once this is created, once these zeros are created, I am again going to check the same approach. Test prediction greater than 0.5, then fill this particular column value with 1, else it will be 0 itself. Now I can compare test attorney versus test predicted. Okay, test attorney is going to contain the expected values. This is the actual predicted values from the logistic regression model. Right, now this should be clear why we are doing this step or splitting into train and test. Test is already going to contain attorney, the expected value, and for this unknown data using model we have calculated the predictions. Now these two predictions will give us an idea how good actually the model is behaving for known and unknown data. Okay, now let me calculate the accuracy test. This is the final portion which I am most interested. The reason is the accuracy value calculated on top of unknown data and train data. Accuracy train and test should be equal or of the same level. Accuracy test should not be too lower than the accuracy train, meaning only accuracy is good enough for trained data and for unknown data my model is not predicting correctly will be the understanding. Okay, but in this case it is same. For accuracy train also it is 0.69, for accuracy test also it is 0.69. So then we are good to go. Our model is actually behaving the same for known and unknown information, which is a good sign when we build a model. Okay, so this is the final thing what we have created for this particular logistic regression model. With this I am completing this logistic regression topic. Thank you.